Next, we're going to finalize some things with the lead vocals. I did this one part offline because it'll take too much time to do it together. If we view clip gain, we can see the lead vocal. I made a whole bunch of adjustments. I went syllable by syllable to adjust them, to get them just right and more even. Now, the reason I did this on clip gain and not as automation afterwards is because the level here is going in to our effects, notably a compressor.
I've got scars on my skin.
So if it's not even hitting our compressor, it's going to compress more on loud notes and obviously less on lower notes, which is what it's supposed to do. You just don't want to make it work so hard. So we want to adjust that before it hits the compressor. So I went through it line by line, making it perfect. And to give you an example of what it looked like before we did this, if I bypass the clip gain, it looks like this. You can see how dynamic it is. But if we put it back, it looks like this, where it's a lot more even. It'll hit the compressor that way.
I've got scars on my skin, and in my mind I've seen things that I hope you can't find.
But we're still going to ride the vocal later and make it perfect. Now, if you remember earlier, we also added echo to the vocal. Right here.
I've got scars on my skin and in my mind.
But that's way too much for the verse. But I kind of like it in the chorus.
Where do we go? It's not the end.
So you can automate it to just play in the choruses. If we switch over here to echo, mute, we could put a point right here, control on the PC, command on the Mac, and drag it up. And the echo is going to turn back on just for the chorus. So it'll be dry here.
Where do we go when the passion is gone?
At least for the echo. And it'll turn back on for the chorus.
Where do we go?
Now we could turn it off for the second verse, but I think I kind of like it there to create an effect change for the second verse, where the eighth note guitar comes in.
It's been 13 years and the days are growing short. I wish that
So I'm going to leave it on in the second verse and the chorus, but I want to turn it off on the outro.
I've got scars on my...
So we'll create another point right here and bring it down. Now the outro will have the echo turned off.
I've got scars on my skin and in my mind.
But I want to create another effect just for the choruses. On those long notes at the end of each phrase, I want to add a long delay.
Where do we go?
To fill the gaps in these spaces. So let's create a long delay. We'll go to our sends, new track, mono, aux input, and create a long delay. Then we'll put a delay on this track. I'm going to choose mod delay 3 mono stereo. So it's a mono send to a stereo effect. Then we're going to set it up to be quarter notes on the left side and quarter notes on the right, but just a bit longer, which will create a stereo effect. Then we'll add some feedback to add some repeats to the delay. And let's hear that.
Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know
And to make it sound more interesting, let's add a filter to the delay. We'll add an EQ, and we'll roll off the low end to about 350 hertz, roll off the top end as well to about 3 kilohertz, and boost the mids just a bit at about 1 kilohertz, and make it a bit wider. And now let's hear that.
Where do we go? It's not the end.
But I don't want to put this on every note. I just want it on the last note of each phrase, like this.
Where do we go? It's not the end.
So we can automate that using Pro Tools automation. So let's switch this from read to write and write in that automation. It starts out off.
Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up.
And we can see it back by switching it right here to see the automation we just wrote. We can put it back to read mode, but we can still adjust the level of our send because we haven't automated that yet, just the mute.
Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know I'm not giving up.
Next, we're going to work on the background vocals, which only play in the choruses, and they sing an upper harmony. Now, I talked to the producer and the band, and they don't want to hear the harmonies too much. They weren't even sure they wanted to use them at all. So we're going to tuck them back quite a bit. Let's just hear them.
Where do we go?
It's not the end. I hope you know. Now, one thing we could do to hide them a bit more is bring them in as far as the panning, so they're not so far to the left or the right.
Where do we go?
This way, they don't stick out. But let's start with just one of them. Put it in the middle. Where do we go? And we can just copy all the effects from the lead to the background vocal. The EQ, the compressor, and the second EQ. Let's just zero out each cut and each boost. Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know. Then the compressor. Where do we go? It's not the end. And finally, the top end EQ. Now with this, we don't want to get too aggressive with it because we don't want the part to stick out. Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know I'm not giving up. Let's copy that to the other track. Put the panning back. Where do we go? Then we should group the tracks so we can move them together. Background vocal.
Where do we go?
And we should also add some reverb to them. We'll copy it from the lead. But let's add a bit more so it washes out. And duplicate that to the other vocal. Where do we?
Where do we go? It's not the end. I hope you know I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up.
Something like that should work. So the next video, we're going to create a final mix using automation on the tracks.